Hello, Garland Nixon here, and we're starting to, things to me seem to be shaping up in the 2024 election. So let's do a shallow dive. How about an intermediate dive? I don't want to do too deep a dive just yet because I mean it could be dangerous. We could be eaten by a shark. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and let's talk about the 2024 election. Before we get started, as I like to remind everybody, follow me on Rock and follow me on Rumble, follow me on Patreon, because let's face it, on any, I mean, follow me on Rumble, Rockfin, of course, here on YouTube. Subscribe to all because let's face it, at any given time, I could be cracked out on YouTube. You know how things are going these days. Also, if you can afford, certainly you see everything there. Buy me a coffee, Cash App, Patreon. Highly appreciated. Now that I'm doing this pretty regularly, I plan to step it up, do some more things here now that Radio Sputnik's out. All right, let's get going. The 2024 election. Things are starting to shape up here. And I think what we're starting to see is that everything's swinging towards Donald Trump. A couple of things. Number one, again, I'll just say what I thought all along. I'll go back to from the very beginning, and that is, I felt that Kamala Harris would lose. I also felt that we would get a repeat of 2020. As they say, you are what your record says you are. The best predictor of the future is through a historical context. What happened in 2020? Kamala Harris ran. She started off, with the same thing, the first Black woman, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. Maybe she was Indian then. I don't know what the hell she was, but whatever. She started off using the kind of minority status thing. And there were people saying, hey, maybe she's the next Barack Obama. She's a senator and this and that. And the more she talked, the less people were attracted to her message or the lack thereof. And but I remember by the end of one of the things I said, by the time she dropped out in 2020, I said she's the only Black person, and I used that term guardedly, that the only Black candidate or the only candidate period that could get less Black votes than Pete Buttigieg, right? And because she's just not attractive to working class, working poor people. A lot of Black folks in America are working class, working poor, right? She's not attractive to that because they want something solid. They want something that they can sink their teeth into politically. Hey, this is going to make your life better. So here we are 4 years later. Number one, let's start with that. As a candidate, we've seen the exact same dynamic. When she started, it was mostly, I saw this from a lot of Black women. Oh my gosh, life is wonderful. It's great. Kamala's going to win. She's the best. She's smart. She's brilliant. She's this. They watched the MSNBC, CNN, who told them all the stuff they wanted to hear. And they said, she's absolutely fantastic. She's the best. She went to Howard University. And, but with little or no exposure to her, because I mean she was in the vice president for 4 years and they mostly hid her. When they put her out in public, she didn't do well. She had some of the lowest ratings as a vice president ever. So she started to run, and the mainstream media and her supporters had a tall order, and the order was to turn a lemon into lemonade, right? To turn chicken feathers into chicken salad. They had someone who had a really bad approval rating, and they needed to turn her into, Eleanor Roosevelt, for God's sake. Well, so what happens? Again, the more she talked, I listened to various interviews. They hid her for a long, long time, and which was wise. They hid her in the basement. They did a Joe Biden 2020 move, and eventually, I think, am I gone? I'm back. Okay. Eventually, who knows? Maybe they're not happy here. Am I losing? My signal doesn't look real strong, but it's picking up. So let's see what happens. I froze for a second. It looks like I'm doing okay. All right. It doesn't surprise me because let me add this. I did one video on Democrats losing the black vote, and that was demonetized by YouTube. So it won't shock me if this video runs into problems. Anyway, let's continue. Well, so what happened? I got thrown off a little bit. So the bottom line is this. Um, Kamala, her video, her oratory skills are lacking, to be kind. Her oratory skills are lacking. She's when she talks, she doesn't answer questions well, if at all. She uses a lot of hollow platitude and hackneyed cliches. America is about patriotism and people. That you've heard the same thing, unburdened by what has been, things of that nature. Well, those things don't sound attractive to the voters. They're like, nah, I'm not really sure what she's talking about. So when they stick her out there, finally out of desperation, she flops really bad. To me, the fact that Kamala, as bad a candidate as she has been so far in this election cycle, is out there more shows a sign of desperation. It's kind of like in a legal case in America, where we have the Fifth Amendment, where you do not, the accused does not have to say anything. They do not have to speak on their behalf. They don't have to answer any questions. And generally, when you look at a court case, if the defense decides to put the accused on the stand, it's usually a sign of desperation. It's usually what we call a Hail Mary pass, a gasp effort. They know they've lost. They know they're done. They see little chance of winning, so they got nothing else to lose. So they put the accused on there, which is opens the accused up for cross-examination. It could be catastrophic, but they're generally, the position is it's already catastrophic. Let's put this guy on the stage or girl, whatever the case may be, and hope, cross our fingers, maybe something will happen. And I think that's what happened with Kamala. I think the external polls were bad enough. I think the internal polls were even worse. Let's talk about that a bit. The Democrats, what's going on here? The Democrats are bleeding from their traditional constituencies, right? Muslims, well, we understand what's happening, and that is the Democrats and the Republicans as a foundation are the leading edge of the U.S. empire. Now, first and foremost, the U.S. world domination has to continue. The U.S. has to be able to dominate the resources, such as oil in the Middle East, and dominate the world. And certainly Israel is an integral part of having a military and intelligence beachhead in the Middle East. So they've got to support Israel no matter what. And not just support it, Israel has to be the dominant military and intelligence force at all costs. So what happened was the liberals were smoked out from their hiding, right? They hide behind rainbow flags and Black Lives Matters masks. They hide behind, we're the nice guys, we're there for the women and the minorities and the LGBTQ plus community. We're there for good things. That's their thing. They're, I call them the rainbow imperialist, right? We're there for help all the minorities, blah, 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 blah. But of course, when they get to the country, they're going to steal all your goods and bomb your stuff to look out for the minorities and the females, right? And Israel, a desperation arose because Israel got kicked in the teeth, and they took a really hard hit on October 7th. And when they did, the U.S. felt that, a vulnerability has been exposed. The Democratic Party was in power, and they have to fix that vulnerability. So they let loose the Israelis on their neighbors, and the rest is history. We could go on and on about that, but that's a whole nother video. Not only did they let loose the Israelis, they're throwing all their military might in behind the Israelis at all costs to dominate the region. And people say, will the war, the discussion is, will the war spread? Well, let me see. They bombed Yemen. They've attacked Israel. They've attacked Yemen. They've attacked Syria. They've attacked Lebanon. They've bombed they've attacked Iran, and they've bombed Iraq. Pretty much the region is already, it's already a regional war. The only question is, will the volume be turned up, on the intensity of fighting in the regional war be remain, I'll put it like this, will it remain under control of the, what we'll call, for the sake of this argument, the resistance forces? That's what they call themselves. That's what we'll call them. Led by Iran, armed by Iran, and other forces, I suspect. So the question becomes, will they continue to control the rate of escalation, or will the U.S. slash, and the proxies, Israel, control the rate of escalation? Who controls the rate of escalation, I think, controls the conflict. And right now it is the resistance, because what they want is a war. Again, everybody understands this. You only need to read People's Army, People's War by General Giap from Vietnam to understand that there is a very clear historical plan for defeating nations that are powerful, nations that are empires, and that is always attritional warfare. Take your time and you make them fight your battle. Well, that's what's going on right now, which means that the U.S. and Israel can't possibly win this unless they take control of the rate of escalation. And even then, I don't think there's a way they can win it, because we're talking about a U.S. that's half a planet away, fighting in a civilization, the Muslim civilization. They're defending their land, but they're also defending their civilization. I don't see how the U.S. and Israel win this, but the bottom line is, to even have a chance, they have to control the rate of escalation. That's not happening. So let's get back home and talk about why they're bleeding from the traditional constituencies. Certainly the Muslim community, that's obvious. And all you need to do is look at Michigan. The way things are looking, the polls say that there's, I believe, 7 battleground states. Currently, Donald Trump is leading in all 7. Additionally, the betting odds, which are pretty strong to go by, because let's face it, that's where the people who are putting their loot on the line, the big loot on the line for betting, is starting to really lean towards Donald Trump. So I think Trump, I mean, let's face it, if he's leading in all 7 states, and you got to add this, he's leading in all 7 states, and Donald Trump in 2016, in 2020, he traditionally outperforms the polls by, let's say, 2% or so. And why is that? Because there are a lot of people that just aren't going to admit they're going to vote for Trump. There's a lot of people, especially in the minority communities, in the Black communities. There's a lot of people that, oh no, Trump, can't stand him, never vote for him, right? There are a lot of people in the liberal world who, and I don't add the Black community to that, I don't add the bourgeoisie of the Black community, but a lot of people in the liberal world who will vote for Trump, who wouldn't, they wouldn't want the backlash from their community, from their friends, family, whatever the case may be. So there are a lot of people. You're not going to find many people who will vote for Harris that'll run around and say, no, I'm going to vote for Trump and vote for Harris. But I think there's a significant chunk of voters, particularly when you're talking about very close races, 1 or 2% makes a difference, that are going to say, yeah, I'll vote for Harris. And when it comes down to it, they're going to go with the fry cook. We'll call Trump the old fry cook. They're going to go with the French fry cook when it comes down to it, right? So things are really breaking for Trump, and it doesn't surprise me. A couple of things. Number one, you could articulate that they're breaking for Trump. Number two, you could articulate that they're breaking away from Harris because she's coming out from under a rock and she's starting to do a lot of interviews. And man, are they bad? They are historically bad. I mean, I watch her, and this, I mean, I just got to be frank. It's incoherent babbling. That's, if I had to come up with one phrase to describe Kamala Harris's interviews, it would be incoherent babbling. Americans, words like patriotism and Americans have dreams and aspirations, and she uses a lot of this. And then she goes back to her childhood. I think that Kamala has, let's say, is a limited number of arrows in her quiver. And when she reaches for another arrow, there's always the same arrow. It's something about her. She was a middle class grew up in a middle class home, right? Well, let's be honest. In some of the communities that are less economically advantaged, right? A person who says my mother and father both were PhDs, and I grew up in a middle class home. We were economically challenged. You know what? The people that haven't grown up with a lot, that doesn't sound right. Both of your parents were PhDs and you were poor. How'd that work? What they do? They both worked at universities. How much does it pay? I mean, granted, you're not going to become Bill Gates working at a university, as a college professor, lecturer. But if you got two people doing, they even one, you can survive. Let's see. When I taught, and I was an adjunct, and when I taught, so this was 2011-12, American University at that time, AU, was paying 120, 125,000, 2011, in that range, something like that. 2010, 11. Yeah, 2010, 11, they were paying 120. I'm sure they're paying significantly more now. But at that point, so that's my point. I'm not saying at that time $120,000 a year you were going to be rich, but you weren't going to starve, right? Even now, you wouldn't starve at 120,000 a year, right? So, with one child, let's say her and her mother. So the idea that, on a professor's salary, you got it rough, it doesn't settle with a lot of voters and people who have traditionally had it kind of economically rough, right? Particularly with the kind of jobs that people are working now and stuff like that. That's number one. Number two, you go to the well too often. She always goes back to the same thing. And I think that her oratory skills have betrayed her greatly. And that people started off listening to her and they were told, here's the problem. Here's another problem. They were fed a bill of goods. They were told Kamala Harris is smart. Why? She's an attorney. She was a former AG. She's this. And so she's smart. She's brilliant. She's intellectual. Oh man, you talk about smart. Trump's not smart. She is. And then they heard her speak and they're like, where's that smart person we were told about? Where's that intellectual we were told about? Where's this gifted attorney that we were told about? When you listen to her, it doesn't sound well. So Kamala, as a candidate, as a person, as a speaker, she's not getting it done. She's not getting it done. And the best that her supporters can do is talk amongst themselves. They can only say things, and her campaign, they say things that are attractive to people who are already voting for her. They say things that are attractive for the people who are the diehard voters, right? Trump's terrible. What about Kamala? I've got issues with her. Trump's this, Trump's that, Trump. If you even heard her interview on Fox News, right? Her answers were all answers that would be very attractive to the people that are already voting for her, to the anti-Trump lobby, right? Everything they said, what about this? Donald Trump's that. What about Biden? Biden ain't on the is not on the ballot. Trump is. It was all Trump stuff. And that's that insular myopic mindset that they have. It so reminds me of their foreign policy. That same foreign policy that says, hey, let's come up with a plan for a deal with the Russians. Okay. And the plan is everything that we want and nothing that the Russians will accept. Sure, they got to take that. And the inability to get outside of their narrative. Right? The pretense that everybody lives inside of their narrative where the Russians will take, okay, we'll get a deal with the Russians, a ceasefire, and then we'll move the rest of Ukraine into NATO in 5-10 years. We'll arm them again and we'll go right back at Russia in another 5 or 10 years. You think Russia can't figure that out? Right? No. They ain't doing it. They ain't buying it. And the idea that people who are like, look, I want to hear something other than Trump is evil. What's in it for me? WIIFM. And you answer to them, okay, hey, times are hard, my job, the overtime, the price of what can you do for me? Trump's evil. He's horrible. Trump's going to do this. Okay, what are you going to do for me? Well, it's not important what I'm going to do for you because Trump's so bad. You got to attract those voters. They're not just coming. But in that campaign mentality of the Democrats, of the so-called liberals now, They are stuck in a box that they can't get out, right? They're like you ever see the little experiment they do where they take an ant on white paper and they draw a black circle around it, and the ant goes to the edge of the circle and keeps stopping because his mind won't let him conceive that he can continue to go. That's where they are. They're stuck inside of this liberal talking point circle where the only thing you need to do is attack Trump because everybody you know says Trump is bad. And then every now and then you throw in Putin or something like that. And then you go ahead and you bring anybody who's anti-Trump. See, the Liz Cheney thing, the Republicans thing is a mentality that says, look, we'll go get them. Why? Because they're opposed to Trump. And we'll show everybody, look, really, let me say this, really, this myopic worldview of theirs is what brings in the Cheneys and the Republicans, et cetera. It's like this. Look, Trump is bad, and that's our message. And one of the ways that we can prove just how bad Trump is actually bringing Republicans who agree with us. And we'll show that we know that Trump is bad. Look at this. We even got Republicans. If you look at it, when they brought Cheney, when she sat around with Dick Cheney talking, Kamala, on the trail, it was a lot of anti-Trump stuff. That was Liz Cheney was an anti-Trump prop for the stage, right? It was, look at that, we're bipartisan, we can work with the Republicans, and well, here's the Republicans to show you how bad Trump is, right? So their entire platform is Trump is bad, right? He's horrible. Even the Republicans agree. So see, Trump is bad. B, let's go with this. Let's lean into the second part because this is, I think, aligned with. We've already talked about a traditional constituency of Muslims. Obviously, the foreign policy in the Middle East is the Muslims are out of here. But let's talk about the domestic policy, the anti-Trump stuff, the Republican stuff, all of that, and how that goes over into the bleeding of other constituencies, right? So the black voters, Trump is bad. That'll work for, in their minds, everybody. That's going to work for everybody. But now we need to attract black voters, and from their perspective, I think black voters are not politically astute. They're not economically astute. The only thing they need is a picture. That's it, right? They need a picture of the person that they're supposed to vote for, so they can look at the person and they can say, okay, that person looks properly, they're aligned with me, they look like me, therefore they're on my side, right? So it's like, okay, Kamala's black. All right, well, the truth of the matter is this. Historically, that's a discussion in the black community. See, this is something they don't get. To just throw Kamala out there on a given day, Kamala, who ran before and said, I want to be the first South Asian, the first Indian vice president. I mean, she literally said, I'm Indian, I'm South Asian. She didn't say she was black. Okay, she said she was Indian, which, look, I give a crap less personally. I think a lot of vote, and the fact is a lot of black people vote for Trump. That tells you they ain't into all of that stuff. Ultimately, they're just trying to eat like everybody else, right? So, but from the liberal mindset, that to me is quite racist. It's quite racist. The liberal mindset to say the black voters are just ignorant voters. They're not going to vote based on their economic needs. They just need a picture of somebody and they'll look at her and say, she's a woman. You've told me she's black. We got to accept that. We're going to vote for her. Here's the problem. Number one, when Trump said, she was Indian. I thought she was Indian, but hey, if she wants to be black, I don't really care, right? And the liberals went nuts. Oh my God, Trump's a racist because he wouldn't come out and say she's black. And then all over CNN, MSNBC, the liberal mouth talking points was Trump's a racist because he won't come out and say she's black. Here's the issue. Meanwhile, in the black community, it's a big discussion. And there's a lot of people, particularly a lot of black men, but a lot of people are like, nah, her being black, come on now. And what they see is this, look, so from the perspective of the black community, they understand something. Historically, and this conversation is had in the black community, okay? Historically, being black was an issue of oppression. Here's what I mean. they had in America what was called the one drop rule during slavery and apartheid. If you have one drop of black blood, that means you're black. What they really meant was, that's metaphorical. What it really meant was, if you have any black ancestry, you'll be considered a black person. Why is that? Because they could have more slaves. The more black people you got, the more slaves. So if you got a person who's on the fence, you want them to be a slave, they got to be black. And it maintains the fact that being black is inferior and all that, which again serves an economic interest. The whole black thing in America was an economic interest for free labor, if you really get down to it, right? In theory, was it about race to some extent, but it was more about labor. It was more about the ruling elite having free labor. Okay. And black folks inherently, a lot of them understood that. But they had to deal with the issue of somebody hanging them or putting them into slavery. All right. So they understood that that was a discussion of the mistreatment of black people, the oppression and slavery, apartheid of black people was the one drop rule, right? So now when the Democrats come forward and they say Kamala's black, before she wasn't, and you look at her and she's not the blackest looking person I've seen, right? And they say, look, she's black. Why? Because of the one drop rule. She's got black ancestry. Therefore, she's black. So they basically, the Democrats utilize a system that was used, a theory, an argument that was used to keep black people in slavery and apartheid. They use that cynically for their political benefit. And black folks are like, we kind of see what you're doing here. We're back to the one drop rule. And how are you when I turn on the TV and I see Anderson Cooper and a bunch of white guys and the designated Uncle Toms that you have to speak for you to keep the black folks in line, to keep them herding like a herd of sheep. I got to listen to these people tell me that I can't question whether or not she's black. But that's a conversation I question. I don't know if she is or not. Based on the one drop rule, she is, but why should I go along with the one drop rule? That never worked in my favor. Instead, let's say this: she is what she said she is. Why do you have to determine that she's black and then I have to accept it? She said she was Indian. She's Indian. Which she's got various constituencies. She's got various not constituencies. She's got various ancestral groups that she could choose from, and she chose Indian. And now, because it benefits her, she's going to choose black. What is she going to do on the same day? Go to some Indian Americans. I need your vote because I'm Indian. Okay. Go to a bunch of black voters. Hey, I need your vote. Why? Because I'm black. Of course, she has white in her too. She'll go to
get help with this. First, please unlock your phone.
Oh God, I hate Google. And then go to white voters, go to black voters on any given day, go to a bunch of voters and simply say, hey, guess what? I'm a member of your group, therefore vote for me. And all of them are going to say, but I'm trying to eat. I'm looking out for my economic needs. So I think there was a certain amount of insult in the black community for the Democratic Party to tell them who is the black person, as if that really mattered, and then say to them, and you're wrong if you don't support the black person. And black people ask questions. White females overwhelmingly voted for Trump in the last two political cycles. How come you're not beating on the heads of white females? How come you're not sending somebody out to white females saying, white females, you better vote for her, right? Trump leads in white males. How come you're not sending the white male out to the white male? You better vote for Harris. You know what I mean? Don't vote for Trump. How come you're not wagging your little cynical finger in the face of other groups? Latinos ain't doing so good. Why is it that you only choose black males to wag your finger at and admonish? That's insulting to black people, to black males. And guess what? There's a reason that black males ain't liking her, because a lot of them are trying to work and eat. Number one, they ain't buying into she's like you, she got to vote, and they can see through the cynicism. So, black males are like, man, yeah, come on, we ain't buying it. And now you're wagging your finger in front of us. That's a second insult. That ain't helping the cause. So basically, let me say this. That's why one of the things I said is woke on the ballot. And what I mean woke was originally a kind of a saying in the black community. And what did it mean? It really just meant you know what time it is. It was like, what is it, red pilled, right? Same kind of thing. You're woke means you're awake. You understand what's happening. Actually, it was originally like the more radical black folks that said, you know what time it is, man. You know what's happening. You know what's going on out here. You know we're being took, hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray. You know, it was kind of from that black radical tradition, right? That's originally where it was. It was usurped and co-opted by the liberal class to like, oh, whoa, that sounds good. And now it means something totally different. It's cynically used to say you got to support liberals. That's really what it really means. You've got to support liberals. And one of the ways we'll do it is we'll stick a rainbow flag and a Black Lives Matter mask on. And then we'll say, see, you got to support us because we found a couple black bourgeoisie people who are paid off by the system to mislead you, and so you can support policies that are not in your best interest. And what they've done here is a terrible, terrible mistake that's going to cost them. Because what's happening is now that a lot of people are figuring out that the whole woke thing is a fraud, that it's a fraud, that there's no substance behind it, that I'll use gender and all these other things that half of them are made up, but I'll use those as political tools to smite my enemies. And if I want to take somebody out, I'll call them a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a transphobe, whatever. I'll use those things to go after people, to cancel people, to take out my enemies. But there's never going to be any benefit for you. I'll use them for foreign policy so we can attack country X or we can interfere in the inner workings of country X, but they're never going to benefit the American people in any way. And when it comes down to it, the American people, regardless of race and gender and color, a lot of people are simply saying, what's in it for me, man? The economics of the last 4 years have not benefited me in any way. The Biden administration has an ideology that solely focuses on foreign policy, that solely focuses on world domination and empire, with no concern about the working class here. Now, I remember I interviewed a guy who was very conservative, and he started talking about, when we talked about the black voters, he's like, yes, because the welfare, and he started talking about some of the things that conservatives traditionally believe, black folks are on welfare and they're getting food stamps and things like that and free stuff, which he had no understanding whatsoever of the black community. Most black people in America are in the working class and the working poor. They're working people. A lot of them ain't making a lot. Some of them are doing pretty well. But they're working, right? I don't know how much you know about the American social safety net and economic safety net. There ain't much to it. There ain't much to it anymore, right? So even a lot of conservatives don't have any understanding about the black voters. If you want to attract black voters, you attract the working class and the working poor. That's the way to do it. The reality is, I'm not saying he's going to do anything for him or not going to do anything for him. That's not a judgment. I'm saying Trump's rhetoric is more attractive to the working class and the working poor than Kamala's rhetoric. Notwithstanding, we live in a neoliberal country and Trump is a neoliberal to some extent. I'm just saying, if you're trying to get votes, his rhetoric, even the whole French fry thing, you're right. Kamala's wandering around with Liz Cheney. And people are like, boy, that's the worst of them, right? And Donald Trump's doing this French fry thing. He's got on an apron and now he's the fry cook. That kind of rhetoric and imagery is going to be much more attractive to working class and working poor people. There's people that can identify with that. There's a visual that they can see. One visual is a person sitting on a stage with Liz Cheney, babbling incoherently about hopes and dreams and aspirations of Americans, and nobody knows what the hell she's talking about. Another one is a guy with a freaking basket full of frozen French fries, dropping them into the grease. People can identify with the basket of fries. Well, I'm not saying there's any substance behind those policies. I'm simply saying that voters' imagery is important. Rhetoric is important in voting. And again, Trump has a history, a background in entertainment. He understands the importance of rhetoric and imagery of the words. And the Democrats are doing everything wrong, everything. And part of it is, I think there is a racism there amongst the liberals, and the racism being seeing Black people kind of like, I'm not, childlike, kind of like politically, as political infants, where you don't have to address their needs in a coherent way, where you don't have to talk about their needs and provide something that they think something's in it for them. That all you have to do is stick somebody out here, a pretty woman, she's pretty, a pretty woman out here, and tell them that the woman is a member of their group, and stand out of the way, and then admonish them and punish them if you don't vote for Kamala. You know, they got advertisements where it's like there's a bunch of Black guys and Black women, and it's like you ain't going to get a date if you don't vote for Kamala. Black men are supposed to go, oh no, not a date. Oh, come on. It's almost like these Hollywood advertisements where now they stick every advertisement has a Black person, a Muslim, a gay person, an Asian person, a fat person, a skinny person, a medium. You know what I mean? Where it's like a Benetton advertisement, and that's supposed to be attractive to people. That's the Hollywood woke thing. And that's what they're doing with her. That woke is good enough. If we stick someone out there who looks a certain way, then we say Trump's bad, which is, you know, let's face it, in my opinion, part of the whole woke thing is Trump is an evil, bad, horrible person. That's become an integral part of it. And, you know, that's going to work. Well, it's not working. Let me add this. I think Trump's leaning into that a little bit. There is an advertisement that I've seen here in the Maryland area. The DMV, shall we say, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. I mean, excuse me, DMV, District, Maryland, and Virginia. There's two DMVs, right? Del Mar is Delaware, Maryland. Delmarva is Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. And the DMV is the District, Maryland, and Virginia, right? So there's an advertisement. And basically, Trump shows some like the advertisement for Trump. I don't know if it's Trump. They show like some trans people that look kind of, to be honest, they chose some in the advertisement that really look kind of weird, right? That were in the Biden administration, right? And they were like men who were dressed like women. And these particular people look kind of like weird characters. And I know that's why they selected them. They've got them, and they said they show Kamala, and they have a video, audio of her saying that trans people in prison should get, or people in prison who want to become change genders should get a surgery, and the government should pay for it. They show this, then they show the three kind of weird looking trans people. Not all trans people are weird looking, but these particular ones are. And they show them, and they then say Campbell is for they, them, Trump is for you. Right now, let me add this. It's and I'll say this, in the Black community, probably in the Latino community, in the immigrant community, that's pretty a successful ad. Let me tell you why. You know, quiet as is kept, the Black community there's a level of conservatism there, right? Of cultural conservatism. A lot of Black people are in church. A lot of Black people haven't moved into the yay, we're all pro rainbow flag stuff. You can argue good, bad, or indifferent. I don't know. That's up to you, however you choose to see it. But it's reality. And so there are a lot of people that are, yes, they're Democrats, but that part of the agenda, they're weak on, shall we say. Okay, they're not really strong, not really supportive of. So when Trump does this advertisement, it's a reminder to them that, the whole kind of rainbow flag thing, they ain't real strong on it. And it reminds them of that. And that's not good for the Democrats, because that woke thing never worked real well amongst Black voters. Never worked real well. For a variety of reasons. And so the Democrats are going all out woke on, I think even Kamala, one could argue she's the woke candidate. One could argue that in the same way that Disney, you know, does, and Marvel and all of that, right? They've got all of these movies now, and in the movies, it's all a strong woman, right? It's the girl boss, right? There's girl boss superheroes that beat up all the men, and the men are just stupid, ignorant little muppets to be tossed around. They're basically props. They're intellectually and physically inferior, and the women are superheroes that can smash through planets, and that's it. The men are stupid, women are smart, and girl bosses, right? And that's the Disney Hollywood thing now. And and then they've got to be diverse women of color who are the bosses, and then there's whatever. And then the evil person is always a male, or maybe a female. Maybe it's all females, even the good person and the bad person. And so Hollywood has just become a woke mess, and people just want a good movie. And what happens is they focus so much on the whole diversity thing that the movies aren't all that good often. Sometimes they are, and sometimes they aren't. And it's costing them. Economically, it's costing them. People are walking away from these movies like, I know there was a movie called like The Cabin or something where there was a couple that had a son, and they went to the old thing. They were at a cabin in some of the woods or something, and there was an evil force trying to kill them. We've seen a million movies like that, but I'd heard about that. Oh, wow. And then when I saw I was with some friends of mine, believe it or not, and we were at Hooters watching a game, and an advertisement came on at whatever, halftime or during the quarter for this movie. And the movie had the couple were two guys. And I just looked around to see the reaction, and I saw, and I'm like, yeah, that movie ain't gonna do real well. Right. And it didn't do well. And it's something that a lot of straight guys, it's not something in this day and age that they're going to really be attracted to. You're not going to set the world on fire. Look, you can do those kind of movies all you want to, and you can say what people should or shouldn't do, but this is where we are. Abraham Lincoln once said, just a talk about that, and he said, a president cannot get but so far ahead of where the American people are. You can't get real far. And the same with movies. You can't get real far ahead of where the American people are. People are not ready in big droves to go see those kinds of movies yet. Reality. You can say it's good, bad, or wrong, or right. They're not. And you put the movies out and they ain't gonna do real well. And then what happens in Hollywood is after they put out the Marvels or whatever movie they put out with the girl bosses or the gay couple or whatever the case may be, they put out the movie and then it doesn't do well because it's ahead of where the American moviegoer is. And then they go on Twitter and they attack the people that didn't see the movie. They're a bunch of sexist, racist, transphobe, homophobes, whatever, because they didn't come see the movie. But still, that ain't gonna make you no money. They didn't come to see the movie. And I think that's what's going on with Harris. I think you're going to see the same scenario. In fact, it's already started. Obama wagging his tail at black men. Hey, you're not voting for, wagging his tail, wagging his finger. He's not a dog, wagging his finger at black voters. Men, you better vote for her. You can do that, but that ain't going to get the people to go see the movie. You put a movie out that people aren't overly well attracted to, and then wag your finger at them on Twitter. How dare you not come to see our movie? Yeah, that still ain't going to get them to see it. And you put Kamala out there and say, look at this. We've got a female, Asian, black, whatever you want to call her. You got to go. And they watch her and they're like, man, not my cup of tea. And after they lose, you scapegoat the viewers, right? Like the movie. You go, look, after this thing is over, and Kamala, who my prediction right now is a nasty loss. I think she's going to get beat really bad. And afterwards, I think the move from the Dems are going to be the Hollywood move. They'll go to Twitter, they'll go on MSNBC and CNN, and they'll wag their fingers at the voters. You're a bunch of racist, sexist, homophobes, especially black men. How dare you not vote for her? They're going to do what they do in Hollywood when they put out a stinking movie and nobody goes to see it. And they attack the so-called, not only the moviegoers, they attack the people who didn't go see it. How dare you not go see this movie? We put it together for you, and you're supposed to see it, which means you're bad. I suspect the same thing. I think she's going to get clobbered, and afterwards we'll be looking at, how dare you? How dare you not vote for Kamala, you scumbags? And some of you had the nerve to vote for Trump. Yeah, they can do that, but that ain't going to get them the White House, and they're going to have problems because I suspect there are some people in the Trump orbit who might want some get backs, as Snoop Dogg may say. They may want to investigate. Let's look at Tony Blinken and this whole 51 former intelligence officers letter that he allegedly made phone calls and set up for the 2020 election. Let's look into Tony Blinken. Well, who in the hell blew up the type pipeline? There's all kinds of things. I put it like this. If Kamala loses, the fireplace in the White House is going to be burning. There's going to be more white smoke coming out of the chimney of the White House than the Vatican. They're going to have to burn a whole lot of stuff. They're going to have to erase tape like Nixon. They're going to have to shut down a lot of stuff because they've been up to no good. And they're going to have to get rid of a lot of stuff. And the Trump people, there's some, I think, yeah, come on, they charge Trump with everything, you know, but mopery on the high seas. I suspect Trump's going to want an investigation into that, and he should. Why wouldn't he? If you come to power and they've been trying to knock you out, he does an investigation. If the Biden administration did nothing wrong, so be it. If they did something wrong, which I strongly suspect they did, then what did they say when they went after Trump? No one is above the law. Let's find out. I don't agree with that. Come on, American justice system. Let's ask Julian Assange and on and on and on. Stephen Donziger about that one, you know, and Scott Ritter and on and on and on. But the bottom line is, I just think there will be some investigations that will turn out some eye-opening things, and God forbid I wouldn't want to be Dr. Fauci if he's still alive, because there will be those who will want to look into COVID, and you know, we'll see what comes out of that. I'm not predicting what will come out of that, but we need to look into it. I think it's fair and reasonable to look into it. So as you can tell right now, what I'm saying is, I think that Kamala Harris's goose is cooked. I think she's done. My prediction is it's going to be a blowout, and I think it's going to get worse and worse. Now, here's another prediction I'll have. There's some kind of a black swan event being held back, right? There's something, you know, the old October surprise. Just before the election, the Democrats have something that they're going to release on Trump. He did something with a porn star. He ate something he shouldn't have ate. He said something he shouldn't have said. He did something he shouldn't have done, right? And most likely, the Republicans will have the same when it comes to Harris. But there'll be some releases at the last minute that the other person did something terrible. But I don't think they're going to get a lot of ground with that for this reason. Gain a lot of ground with that for this reason. The reason I think that the Democrats are going to get blown out, the reason is based in sound politics and economics, right? East Palestine, we had what is that? Ohio, Pennsylvania, wherever the hell it was. I think it was Pennsylvania. You have this train turnover, and of course, the Biden administration, who are ideologically only focused on world domination. Biden's like, oh, what happened? East Palestine, is that actually in the Middle East? No. Is it in Ukraine? No. Hell with it. So he doesn't come there for months and weeks, whatever the hell. He didn't give a crap. They did nothing. Nothing. Biden did nothing. What a political disaster that was. Now we've got, you know, hurricanes and all kinds of weather ravaging North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida. And what does Biden and his team do? Zilcho, buddy. They did nothing. Offer people $750. At the same time, people are seeing $8 billion for war in the Middle East, $8 billion for war in Eastern Europe, hundreds and hundreds of millions going to for war in Taiwan. Everything is war, war, war. Everything is empire. There's nothing left for the people at home. And people are sick of that crap. And that is a bad look 1 or 2 months just before the election. And that's what the Democrats did. And might I add, people want the Democrats to do something about inflation. And their answer is, we got to send more money to Zelensky. And people are saying things like, oh, you know, I don't know how many memes I've seen, but like North Carolina, and it says, this is how you can get the Biden administration to send money to North Carolina. And they changed the name of North Carolina to Ukraine. They changed the name of Charlotte to Kiev, or, you know, or Tel Aviv. There's an acknowledgement amongst people, and there's a sour taste in their mouth that the Biden administration is the ultimate imperialist neocon administration, and they don't give a crap about the American people. The neocons see the American people as an inconvenience. It's like, man, can't you see that we're trying to conduct an empire here all over the world, and you greedy little bastards want food and things like that, and you want us to help you out and provide funds when you have a natural disaster? How selfish of you. Can't you see we're all filling our pockets for here at our think tank, the Center for the Institute of Evil Things Worldwide, the study of evil that we're going to do, and that we've got all kinds of tanks Lockheed Martin and Raytheon are trying to eat, and you have the nerve to want us to rebuild a bridge in North Carolina. That ain't happening. Get out of here with your North Carolina and East Palestine's. We ain't got time for that. We've got to stand up for democracy in Ukraine and things like that. Okay. Yeah, that ain't gonna fly. It ain't going to fly with black voters. It ain't going to fly with blue, green, red, yellow, or purple voters. There ain't, when it comes down to the eating, man, there ain't no color to voters. And so the more and more I see Democrats of all colors and of all hues, as they say, saying, nah, they're going to stay home. They're going to vote for Trump. They're going to vote for Jill Stein. And I think that this is a long-term problem for the Democrats, because what we're looking at now is their traditional constituencies want a divorce. They're like, we've been married to you for decades, and we've done everything we can to try to tell you we want our needs met too. And you don't just see that in divorces, where you have a couple and let's say the wife says, dude, all you do is go fishing all the time. All you do is drink with your friends every night at the bar. Or you want to have fun. You want to do everything and you never come home. You don't want to spend money on me and the kids. Or you don't want to take me anywhere. And husband's like, yeah, I'll take you somewhere. Where? To the bar. And then next week you can go fishing with me. And the wife's like, that wasn't the idea, right? And they get a divorce. Why? Because, and I'm just using this as an example. There are women and men. There's all other reasons for divorce. I'm just using this as an example. Okay. And I think there's constituencies. I've heard black men and women both say, you know, we live in these cities and we've been in the cities for I don't know how long. We look around and the cities ain't doing well. And we voted in city councils and mayors that are both black and Democrats. And ain't nothing gotten better for us. And we're unhappy with the policing situations. And we're paying taxes here. We're paying for everything here. We're paying for the streets being cleaned, and they're not. We're paying for everything, and nothing's getting better. It's like we're paying for people who are in power. We're voting people in power, and these people are living a pretty good life, and they're just happy keeping the status quo. And we want improvement in our day-to-day lives, and we're not getting that. And so they're waking up after years of being married to the Democratic Party and the black bourgeoisie misleadership class, and they're saying, it ain't working for us. It's a bad move, because sometimes when you open that door, sometimes, you know, when the wife comes home and she looks at the husband and he's on Amazon buying new fishing rods, and she's like, you know, I've had just about a month enough of this crap. Look, this place is falling apart. Our bank account is empty. Our credit cards are run up. Our kids are ragged. They're going to need to go to college in another year or two, and we don't have any money to send them. And you're buying another fishing rod, and you're paying $500 a month for a stinking boat. No. And at some point, she's like, I can do bad by myself. And she ain't even saying it to him. She's just looking, thinking. And I think that's what's happening with the constituencies. It's not that the Muslim voters are like, yay, we're mad at you Democrats, but we'll come back around if everything changes. No, I think they're like, we see who you are now, and we don't like it. I think black voters and various other voters are looking at the Democratic Party saying, we see who you are now. We understand that you're not our kind. You're not our type. You're not looking out for the things that we want to be addressed. That our material I don't know what you want to say, but that our lives are not improving and they're getting worse, and we're supporting you. And as Malcolm X said about the field slave, when a field slave's living a life of misery and someone says, let's run away, the field slave says, any place is better than here. And that's what American voters are doing, of all colors. They're saying, you know, Trump is saying, let's do something different. This is not pro-Trump. I'm to the left of all of these groups. I don't think what Trump is doing will work to save this broken empire. I'm just saying, from the perspective of the voter, when Trump says, I'm different, let's do something different, let's go in a different direction, these people are screwed up. I think voters of all colors say the same thing. A lot of them. Any place is better than here. And the Democratic Party just keeps pumping up the people who they already got, and it ain't working. I think that, let me add this. The other discussion going on is the House and Senate, right? It's pretty clear to me that the Republicans are going to turn the Senate, that they're going to get the Senate. I'm thinking, my guess, my number I'm going to give is 53-47. They'll have the Senate, which is very important. I'll tell you why. For Trump, right? It's for politics, because the Senate will be necessary for Donald Trump to get his cabinet in, right? And it's going to put pressure on the traditional conservatives for this reason. If Trump wins in a landslide, that's considered, which let's just say for the sake of argument, this my prediction comes true. And Trump wins in a landslide. If Trump wins in a landslide, if he wins big, then that will be effectively a political mandate, right? And the anti-Trump Republicans, the establishment Republicans who would want to fight Trump won't be in a position to do it. So when Trump comes in and Trump says, I want this person, and that person in my cabinet, and let's just say it's RFK Jr. or Tulsi Gabbard or somebody like that, which could happen. And he says, okay, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, you're members of my cabinet. Let's just say he does that. The traditional Republicans will say, oh man, we got to help the Democrats stop him. But he'll have so many votes that it'll be impossible. That if he wins in a landslide, which again, if he doesn't, I think he wins, but let's just say it's a landslide, because I think he's going to win all of the battleground states. I think he does, and that, which would be massive landslide, and political mandate. It makes it very difficult for the Republicans in the Senate to push back if he says, I want, Mickey Mouse for, because what if he says Douglas McGregor for Secretary of Defense? The establishment that will go bananas, right? It will be very difficult for them to stop him, because how's a Republican who's got to go home and run again and face his constituency when this he just had a Ronald Reagan style victory, right? That's what you're looking at here. How are you going to say, okay, you can't get Douglas McGregor in as the Secretary of Defense if he wanted to do that? So having the Senate will, if Trump wins in a landslide, as I predict, will put him in a position to put in the people that he wants. And we'll see. I don't know how that's going to work out, but we'll see, right? Who it'll be, I don't know. He could go back to a bunch of stinking neocons for all I know. I don't have a prediction there. My prediction right now is that he wins in a landslide. And he has the Senate, which allows him, because the Senate confirms his cabinet members, and that'll put him in a position to confirm what would otherwise be controversial cabinet members when it comes to the establishment of both parties. Now let's move to the House. The big talk is about New York, where there's a number of Republican members of Congress of the House who the Democrats believe they may be able to flip. They may be able to take the House. The Republicans don't have a big lead in the House, 5, 6, 7 votes, whatever, seats. Now, here's the thing about it, I think. If early in the day and this is, I'm getting a little bit into the weeds. If early in the day on election day, it starts to get obvious that things are looking real good for Trump, right? If we get into election day and Trump's, kicking ass and taking names, right? And it's like, oh boy, my God, look at these exit polls. Because let's face it, right now, the exit polls for early voting is Trump's kicking butt. So if these exit polls hold and Trump's way ahead when it comes to early voting, and that continues into the day of election day, and it real early, it's obvious that Trump's going to win. One of the issues, one of the things one of the dynamics that creates is that the party who's losing, people become less motivated to vote. And let's not forget, a lot of people get off work and vote late. A lot of people get off 5:30 and rush to the polls, right? What happens at 5:30? The exit polls are screaming a Trump victory. There's a lot of Democrats that'll be like, oh crap, Trump win. I ain't gonna bother. right? That'll really devastate the Democrats, and they'll lose the House. They'll lose the House. So depending upon early voting, if it becomes obvious in early voting that Trump's winning, and then early some point during the day, the exit polls and things that are coming in start to say Trump's got a victory, a lot of dejected Democrats will stay home, and that'll mean the House stays. Now, either way, the House could stay because Republicans are maybe really, really highly motivated to come out. So right now they've got it. The betting odds are the Republicans 50.5% of taking the House, the Democrats 49.5%. So it's effectively a toss-up. But I think because you have to go with whoever has this in a toss-up, right? It's kind of like a football match where if the teams are equal, you'll give the home team a little bit of a lean towards, well, both teams are equal, but this team's home, I'll say they've got a little better probability of winning, right? Same with voting. If in fact it's a toss-up, which it appears to be as to who controls the House, the fact that the wind is at the backs of the Republicans, to me, gives the Republicans an advantage. So my prediction, I'm walking away with this. Trump wins a significant victory. He wins walking away. The Republicans take the Senate to 53 to 47. The Republicans take the House somewhere around the same, a short, small majority. Again, not a big majority, but they're going to hold the House. There could be some prizes, but that's what I'm going with right now. That's what I'm going with. But so thanks a lot, everybody. I'm getting ready to jump off. Certainly appreciate you taking time. Don't forget to share this on all your social media platforms. Don't forget, if you're not a subscriber, hit the like button, share this, and subscribe. Follow me on Rockfin. Follow me on Rumble. As you know, I'm no longer at Radio Sputnik anymore, so I'm kind of doing this. This is my thing I'm doing. So if you can afford to support the channel, PayPal. Buy me a coffee is great. You can always do buy me a coffee. And now buy me a coffee is just like Patreon, wherein you can become a monthly subscriber, even if it's only $5 or $10, that'd be great. And of course, Patreon, you can become a monthly subscriber on Patreon. Thank you very much. Certainly appreciate it. And share this on all your social media platforms. Peace. I got to run because actually, believe it or not, I got to do a WION, which is India, at 10:30. I got to do interview with them. All right. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. I'm out.